the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. I always enjoy a good trip to Liberty Center. It's a mall complex, shopping complex in Liberty Township, Ohio, just north of the 275 loop. It's really a great place to go. It's a wonderful development and always interesting. And I was happy to see that this year, to celebrate the Chinese New Year, what they call the Lunar Festival, as the Chinese typically do, celebrate the New Year festivities. I was happy to see that they had classic dragon and lion dances and other Chinese kinds of art and entertainment that was, I think, very stylish. The Chinese New Year, it's like regular New Year's, it's a positive attempt to kind of launch the next section of the year in a constructive way for cultures of Eastern mythology. So I have a little experience with it. I was interested. It was a very good show and well done. And I have some clips of it, but it was a well put together show. Kind of what it reminded me of an experience I had as a young person. One of my first big job, where I actually got paid a paycheck. 16, 17 years old, was at the Emperor's Walk in Sherryville, Ohio, along Chester Road. Got a lot of stories I could tell about all that period of my life, but I learned a lot. And I had a lot of cultural experience very early in my life, and one of the things that attracted me to that particular place to work was the adventure of it, the remoteness. It was one of at the time, the most decorated restaurant in all of Cincinnati. It had some of those elaborate interiors dedicated to Chinese culture, and it was a good Chinese restaurant. It was everybody came to that place because it was like the best place to go if you wanted to enjoy Chinese food in an environment that was very well decorated. And every year for Chinese New Year, my job was to get on the roof, and I knew all the people. I knew the cooks and the members of the family that did the dragon dance. They had a very nice dragon. I had to look at it all year. It was a little closet where we had kept all of our stuff because I was a busboy at this place, and I learned to hustle tips and customer service in that kind of environment. And again, it was classic. I had to dress up nice. Had to wear a bow tie to work every day, and you had to really dress well. And it paid well. And again, I had access to a lot of interesting experiences early in my life at this Chinese restaurant called the Emperor's Walk. It's not there anymore. It sits on the Cincinnati, the Sharonville Convention Center sits on the previous spot where that restaurant was. But it was what I remember most about it kind of came back to me through this watching this dragon dance and the lion dances at Liberty Center in 2026. This would have been back in the 80s for me, 84, 85, 86, I think, is when I worked there. So my job every New Year, that's how I learned so much about it, was to get on the roof And they had an awning where you could do like pull your car up, drop off people underneath this nice, magnificent awning, and it was an experience to go out to eat at that restaurant. And I would get on that awning, and they would do a dragon dance. The crowd would gather all over the parking lot. The parking lot would fill up with people, and they would do a very traditional dragon dance, complete with firecrackers and everything. So my job would be to feed like, I can't remember, it was tens of thousands of firecrackers off during the duration of the dance. Dance would go on for about a half an hour. And I would just feed these firecrackers off, and they explode above the head of the dragon. The dragon would dance underneath them. And then, of course, we had the drums and the cymbals and all the noises that normally accompany it. And watching these dances at Liberty Center, which I thought was a very tasteful thing to do. The whole place filled up. It was a great event for everybody in Liberty Township to come out and see this representation of culture. No, and I do get to travel to Japan and places in the East quite a lot. So I'm quite familiar with their reverence towards the spirit world. And the story with with these dances, especially the lion dance, is that there was a monster called a Neon that would attack villages, and whenever the new year came around, and that people learned to survive by fighting the monster. Now, I'm wearing my Mothman shirt. Love the legend of the Mothman. I love the idea of cryptids and exploration of cryptids, and people in the United States, because just the way that I think culture came from places and settled into the Indus Valley and to the west, into the Near East, moved a very Occidental approach, and then to the east of that Indus Valley region, over the hills of the Himalayas, there was an Oriental view, but they kind of share sources. And the approach to dragons and where dragons come from. And there's a lot of discussion about the kind of life that came from the planet Sirius, and how they found their way into the legends, especially in Oriental religions, amphibious characters that emerged in legends. So you have a group of people who believe literally in a monster that attacked villages every New Year, and they had to fight it off. And again, the Mothman in Point Pleasant, Ohio, attacked people around Christmas time, and we could be talking about the same kinds of monsters that get conjured up by the same kind of elements, and you have just differences in culture and how they deal with them. But the persistence of monsters emerging and paranormal activity evolving is something that is a global concern. And whenever you travel in the East and the Eastern cultures, they have a very thin balance between life and the rambunctiousness of the spirit world. And so when you watch something like this dance that was put on at Liberty Center, and people afterward are kind of like, well, that was pretty interesting, but what does any of that mean? It's about fighting evil, and driving evil and scaring evil away. And the cymbals and the drums and even the mirrors on the face of the monsters that they created were designed to spook away evil spirits and usher in a protection of the village and of the culture at large. And it's something that they do for New Year's in order to celebrate purity and goodness and good luck and pushing away the bad spirits and evil things that go on. In fact, let's take a minute and watch. I recorded quite a lot of the dance they call the lion dance. Even the lions aren't regional to China. They made pretty good monsters, so they adopted it. This is largely in southern China that this particular dance emerged, and the bright colors, the color red, the things on their feet are all designed to mimic a a monster and scare away a neon monster or any other monster that happens to be part of the commie culture that is so prevalent in Eastern societies. So let's take a minute and look at the Chinese lion dance, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. So what they all believe, and even when you go to Shinto temples in Japan, not that Japan and China and Korea are all just alike, but they have similar belief systems that emerge from the same source material. And again, it's this idea of monsters or evil spirits emerging in a culture and haunting your society. And they scare them off with drums, cymbals, and gongs. And other things. And another characteristic that was in this particular dance I thought was pretty interesting. And the one I talked about where I was a part of it every year that I was a young person. And my job was to feed the firecrackers and kind of navigate this. Firecrackers were there to scare, that the idea that these monsters were scared of something, that humans could create something. They'd create their own monsters and fight back against the things that terrorize them. It's a very proactive thing to do. And I always thought it was good that somebody would do that. But in this particular lion dance, the acrobatics that you saw were very akin to that type of thing, where it kind of combines the fighting evil with kung fu. The acrobatics are part of the show and showing dexterity and great skill. It's all part of showing human ingenuity overcoming the terror of monsters that lurk in the dark and come and terrorize people and play on their fears. So I always thought it was a very positive thing and enjoyed it. But in this particular dance, they had the actual, what they call the laughing Buddha as a character that danced in between. And he goes around with a little fan. I also call him the fat Buddha. He's not the traditional Buddha that created Buddhism, but he's what's called big-headed Buddha, and he's meant to be a kind of a happy character that brings joy and prosperity into the dance. And even if the dance is kind of meant to invoke fighting against evil spirits, the laughing Buddha is there to provide comic relief and kind of steer the dance, coordinate the dance to the music. And I thought it was extremely effective and quite a good display to put on at the Liberty Center Mall inside the inside section of it. Great coordination and thought to even do it by the organizers at Liberty Center. Because what a positive way to kind of try to embrace abundance, joy, prosperity, and good fortune, which is the point of the dance. The dragon dance scare off evil spirits, and then the lion dance is in order to control this particular monster, and to in the wake of that terror, bring forward good tidings and happiness. So that's all the visuals, the stunning attire, the display of martial arts with deep symbolic meanings. It's not just to look nice and festive, but to actually provide a spiritual mechanism for which society can survive, because all cultures believe in some sort of monster, and only when you want to pretend like everything's okay and that the monsters aren't lurking out there to try and do something bad to you. In the East, they try to make peace with these kami, these evil spirits. In the Near East and in Christianity, we call them demons, and we try to push them out with exorcism or prayer or belief in Christ and hope that God will protect us from those things. But everywhere you go, when you look at the dragon dance and the lion dance, and then you see Indians, North American Indians, and their dances, they're very alike, and they do it for the same reasons. The drums and the yelling and the loud noises and the colors. If you tap into some of the visions that come from ayahuasca, and you see the kind of patterns that emerge in the characters that jump into people's what they call hallucinogenic projections, but what they see and what is real often get blurred into a perception of reality that is very colorful, and you see that in cultures like the lion dance, the dragon dance of China and Eastern cultures in general. The use of red to scare away monsters in their clothing and in banners that are put up to kind of ward off evil spirits. And then into the North American Indian, and the same kind of color schemes, the same patterns. The all come from the use of hallucinogenics that communicate with the spirit world, and they see things that scare them, so they get control of them. They create these dances and festivals in order to manage that terror, so they can have a constructive society. So it might have been interesting, and people had they had dumplings at the event. There were some great vendors all around the area where these dances were going on, and I heard more than a few people wonder what the meaning of it all was, because it was kind of foreign to them. And I think back in the day, I know there's still some restaurants and places that do these dragon dances, but from my experience, one of the best restaurants in Cincinnati at the time, I worked at it, and it was a Chinese restaurant called Emperor's Walk, and I was friends with a lot of the members of the family that actually did these dances every year. They played the drums and did the music, and I learned about the symbols very early in my life, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great mechanism for a society to manage the things that terrify them. Now, we're not talking about a reverence for Chinese communism by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of these cultures go way back, and I would say they go back even further than written history. And I think that a lot of legends that come from seafaring type creatures or amphibious looking creatures, and how they tie into the planet Sirius, and the rise of civilization in the Indus Valley, and how cultures migrated from that spot outward, and how they evolved, and belief systems that are similar but different in various ways. The way that humans express their terror is interesting. And to take Chinese New Year and tie it to the lunar calendar and celebrate with great abundance and good luck. Fortune cookies are always very positive. You open them up, they seldom ever say you're going to get hit by a car on the way home from work today, or bad things are going to happen. They always say something positive, like you're a very smart person, or you have a very nice smile, or they always find some above the line thinking to express, and it's a positive way to approach the dangers and menaces of existence. And the Laughing Buddha in this dance particularly, I thought was a really good touch. It takes the next layer up. It's not enough just to have a dragon or some lions dancing and doing acrobatics to some very lucrative drum beats, which I always love. I love that type of percussion utilization, even in Native American Indian festivals. It's always interesting to hear, because it's an aggressive attack against the spirit world, and it's a good lesson for how humans can create a happy way to deal with terrifying things. But the Laughing Buddha, in this case, joyfully participating in the sorrows of the world, and even when things are scary and dominating our consciousness with elements that fatigue us and bring trouble to our minds, it's good to have a Laughing Buddha that laughs in the face of danger, laughs at the things that you're afraid of, and boldly goes out there and prances around confidently and dancing between these monsters. And even the gut, the big pot belly aspect of the Laughing Buddha says that he's so successful in his life that he has a full stomach and can enjoy prosperity and laugh about all the crazy things that go on in the world. That's why there's even, in this case, the pot belly aspect of the Laughing Buddha, even down to that detail. So it was very authentic, very enjoyable, and I think it's a great method for Liberty Center to embrace culture and share it and bring things from all over the world and bring them to the comforts of Liberty Center in Butler County, Ohio, so people can enjoy some of that culture and maybe roll it into their own lives. Not that you want to duplicate rituals from southern China. There's a lot of things that we do very well in the West, but when people ask me questions about like the Mothman and various monsters that are known cryptids, Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster or ghosts, paranormal activities, and they say, I can't believe in all that crazy stuff. Well, every culture in the world believes in some aspect of that, and it's not because humans are all universally crazy. There's some human cultures have figured out a way to work and live in balance with the terrors that come from the spirit world. And one thing that ancient China has always done well with their colors and their attitude and their approach, their music, has found a way to look at danger optimistically and laugh in the face of terror that might otherwise overwhelm people. And one thing they do in the Chinese New Year, which was in this case celebrated on the last day of February 2026 at the Liberty Center Mall. What they choose to do is approach every year with an optimistic approach that is a healthy way for consciousness to deal with the things that trouble human beings. And it's a good reverence for survival and a lesson that a lot of people could learn a lot from. And I was lucky to learn some of those traits very early in my life, and they really have lasted with me. And this whole exhibition at Liberty Center reminded me of those early experiences, which benefited me greatly. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. And watch out for the monsters that are out there. They lurk everywhere. But you got to find some way to deal with them. And in ancient China, they did dragon dances and lion dances to great effect for a culture that found a way to deal with crisis in a productive way. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
Thank you for listening.